feet underwater.
Welcome to the show, y'all. I'm your host, Joe Baker. Look here. This story is about this dude named Randy. And Randy is a white supremacist. I'm talking about full-fledged, tatted up, all the way live white supremacist, right? But let me tell you how he became a white supremacist. Let me tell you the journey that he went on, because it's going to intrigue you, I think, because it's an uncommon journey. It's not like what you might see on TV or hear, you know what I'm saying, on TV when you're talking about somebody that becomes a white supremacist. This dude here, when he was a teenager, even before he was a teenager, his family was solidly middle class, right? And they fell on hard times in the early 90s, right? Things were not working out. His father and mother both had a job, but things are not working out for them. They were in debt. So they ended up losing their house. So they had to move into the projects. And when they moved into the projects, Randy was a teenager. And it wasn't easy for him because everybody that he ran into in the projects didn't like him. And the honest answer as to why they didn't like him, because he was white. He was white. And they looked at this white boy as somebody that was moving into their neighborhood. They didn't like it. They didn't want him there. They didn't trust him. They had been taught to believe that, white people, they ain't straight and all this and that. You know what I'm saying? So when he moved in, when their parents moved in, they didn't like him. And they gave him a hard time. A hard time. But over time, the other parents in the neighborhood come to know his parents, and they ended up liking him. After many, many, many fights and many, many times getting ran home with his nose bloody, he finally stood up and earned the respect. Even though he still got his butt whooped, he stopped running. He earned the respect of the people that were his age, the young people in the neighborhood that were his age. So he did all the things that they did. They played basketball, football, baseball, and all of that. And they learned that they had a lot in common. A lot in common. And Randy became friends of a lot of the people in the neighborhood. Now, everybody didn't like him. That's just what it is. In any neighborhood you go in, everybody's not going to like everybody. You're going to have some people that don't like you for whatever reason. And he had that continually as he grew up in the projects, right? But one of the things that happened in the project that was very interesting is that Randy had a girlfriend, a sister. And she had a lot of trouble from the other sisters about messing with him. But she had fallen in love. And the heart wants what the heart wants. And it's as simple as that, y'all. So she's spending a lot of time with Randy. And what happened is that she ends up pregnant. She ends up pregnant. And Randy is the father. She hadn't been with anybody else. He's the father. Now, the parents are outraged because both of them are juniors in high school, But you could have seen this coming a mile away. Could have seen it coming a mile away. Because when Randy's parents went home, they would be over there. When her parents were not home, they would be over there. Unsupervised. Hormones raging. Y'all know what I'm talking about. You know what I'm talking about. They ended up having a baby boy. A little baby boy. And they named him Kenny. And Kenny looked just like his father. Just like his father. Now, he was high yellow. And he had black folks' hair. And I'm saying all of these things for a specific reason. You'll understand later as I do the show why. He was high yellow. He had black folks' hair. Coarse, a little bit more coarser than, white folks' hair. You know what I'm saying? And he had some of the features of his mother, some of the features of his father. But you could clearly tell after a few months that he was mixed. You could clearly tell that. Early on, he could have passed for a white child. As the months went on, you could see it. Nobody cared anything about that, right? Nobody cared anything about that. So time goes on, and it's time to graduate high school. He graduates high school. She graduates high school because while she was pregnant, luckily for her, the teachers, the principal, the school district, they allowed her to do a lot of her work at home, stuff like that. They really worked with her, and she was able to graduate high school, both of them. But like a lot of people in the hood, graduating high school sometimes just isn't enough. And Randy was hanging around a lot of dudes in the hood that were getting money and doing things that they didn't have no business doing. And he was with them because he felt as though, I need to do something to get some money for my child. But he wasn't thinking straight. He wasn't following the lead of his father because his father worked all the time. He didn't follow the lead of his girlfriend's parents because they worked all the time. He thought that he needed to do it fast and he needed to do it now. And the people that he were hanging around with, they were getting it fast and quick. So he tried it too. And when he tried it with them, something goes wrong. And he ends up being sent to prison. He's a high school graduate, barely 19 years old. And he ends up in prison. He ends up going to prison. And when he goes to prison, he finds himself in a situation where he cannot continue to exist in this environment without some help, without some protection. He have white people coming at him. He have black people coming at him. He have people coming at him from both sides, all sides, right? Trying to take stuff from him, trying to push him into joining one gang or the other, so on and so forth. But what they didn't understand is that he wanted to stand on his own 2 feet. He knew what it was like to grow up in a rough environment. He grew up in the projects from the time he was a teenager to now, so he could stand and hold his own. So anytime they pushed on him, he fought back. He fought back. And a lot of the organizations, they appreciated and liked that, and they wanted him to join. But he never joined any of them because he felt as though he had already disappointed his girlfriend and his son enough that he didn't want to continue to disappoint them, nor his parents or her parents. But the pressure was becoming too intense because a lot of people don't understand how much pressure is put on a person when they're in prison to join a gang. It's not an easy thing to resist that pressure. And what happened in Randy's situation, he was tricked, but he didn't know at the time that he was being tricked. His cellie, and this is a common story, and you will hear this in some of my other episodes. His cellie had let another gang come into the cell and take all of his stuff. Now, he was without a TV. He had no conversation. He didn't even have hygiene items. But what he didn't know is that his cellie had been paid off by the Aryan Nation. This other gang had been paid off by the Aryan Nation to go in there to take all of his stuff. And it was going to be no problem. And the reason I say it was going to be no problem because here's one thing that happens in prison, right? A lot of times you'll have a group, they'll pay another group to go rob or do something to an individual, right? Because, they want to influence them to come join them, right? So what it is like this. A lot of the white people, whether they belong to a gang or not, before something happens, before a black group or a Latino group does something to them, they'll go to the white folks and say, look, is he with you? It's going to be a problem if we do this, and vice versa. And the white folks do that when it comes to somebody black or brown, right? A lot of that happens in here. So this particular situation where the Aryan Nation, they went to one of the black organizations said, this is what I want you to do. Now, they did a lot of stuff like that, cooperating, trying to influence the environment. You understand what I'm saying? So in this situation, they took the money from the Aryan Nation to go rob him, knowing that this was going to probably push him towards the Aryan Nation. And it worked. After they robbed him, the Aryan Nation bumped down and said, look, man, you ain't got to live like this. You ain't got to live like this. They said, we're going to get your TV back. We're going to get your stuff back. You ain't got to live like this. What he didn't understand, that this was all staged. This was all staged to make him believe that he could trust these people and that they had his back. All staged. That's how it goes. So they end up getting him all of his stuff back. And now he feels some kind of closeness with him. He feels like, yeah, man, they got my back. I know that they might feel this way or that way, but I don't feel that way in my heart, but they got my back. They got my back. And I need somebody to have my back in here. So when they bump down on him a few days later, after they done got his stuff back, they kicking it with him. He's going to chow with him. Everybody in the penitentiary knows what's going on. Everybody that's in the organization, they know what's going on. The manipulation is at work. So he goes for it. And he ends up, when they ask him to join, he said, yeah, he'll join. But what he did not understand is by joining, he had to denounce his son. He had to denounce him. Now, at this time, they don't know that he has a mixed child, right? But he's learning the literature. He's learning the ideology. He's learning what it means to be part of a white supremacist group. And at the end of the day, what he learns is that you can't have, they pretend, they say that your bloodline has to be pure. Show me somebody that's bloodline that's pure, and I'll show you somebody that is not born in the last 100 years. You feel what I'm saying? But anyway, his bloodline, whatever it was, might have passed the test, right? Might have. But he didn't know how he was going to disclose to them that he had a son by a black girl. So what he did is he wrote her and he broke up with her, ended the relationship. He told her to go on about her business. He was going to be there for a while, and he didn't want to be bothered with her, and he didn't want to hold her back. You know what I'm saying? She wrote him back and said, what about our son? And he told her again, go on with your life. Go on with your life. So he stopped calling her. He stopped writing her. He took her off his visitation list, and he let her know, if you come up here, they're not going to let you in, so on and so forth. So he's cut all ties with her and his son. Now, keep in mind, his son is small, doesn't understand any of that, don't know what's going on. So in the meantime, in between time, she does like a lot of girls, like a lot of women do. After about a year or so, guess what? She finds her somebody else. Now, during that time, he's moving up in the ranks. You feel what I'm saying? In the Aryan Nation organization. He's moving up in the ranks. But she's moved on with her life. Now, years are going by. Those years get fast. You feel what I'm saying? We're 20 years in now. He doesn't even look the same. He has lightning bolt tattoos all over him. You feel swastikas all over him. His mom and dad are older and just sorely disappointed in him because they still live in the same area, and the majority of their friends are black and brown. And they look at him like, what? Not understanding any of it. Not understanding that he made a decision because he felt as though these individuals were going to be able to help him navigate this environment that he was in and survive it. He really believed that, not understanding that he had been tricked the whole time. So these times, they continue to pass by. One day, he's looking at the news. Now, he remembers his girlfriend's name and his son's name. He remembers them. He remembers their last name. He's looking at TV. He's watching a football game. And his son is playing in a football game in college, right? Playing on a football team that he has a lot of love for, right? And now I misspoke. When I said 20 years had passed by, it wasn't quite 20 years. It was like 17, 18, because he was 18 when he went to college. So it was about 18 years. 18 years, right? And this particular college was talking about his son. They were showing these tapes of him in high school running at football. I'm talking about getting down. So he raises up and he's looking at the TV and he sees his son. He had no recent pictures, no anything, but he sees his son running at football. Now, his celly is an Aryan Nation, one of his brothers now, right? And his celly said, look at that nigga running that ball. Look at that nigga. Woo wee, he gonna be, man, they get him at that particular, and I don't want to call off the school's name, right? Because it's a very prestigious school, well known. I'm talking about prestigious, okay? We're just gonna leave it at that. And it was his favorite team. Now, one part of him felt pride that he saw his son running the ball and his son might do some great things and go to college. The other part of him felt ashamed because he had not been there, and he's looking at his son and he sees himself in his son. Now everybody's talking about this little boy, right? The whole compound is talking about, man, you see that recruit from such and such school getting ready to go to such and such school, blah, 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 this and that. Everybody's talking about him. White groups, black groups, everybody, because this boy can play some ball. But it's his son. And he can't say anything. Because if he tells anybody that's his son, he's in for it. Now think about that. Your son is this great athlete and has this opportunity to go off to college and get an education and possibly do great things and maybe, just maybe go into the NFL, and you can't even brag on it. You ain't even been there. She had to find somebody else to step in and fill his shoes. He felt like crap. Felt like crap for what he had done. And he should have. He should have. And he tried to figure out, how can I get in touch with my son? How can I get in touch with my son? So at visit, his mom and dad come. They're older now. They come and he tell them he saw his son on TV, this and that, and he's excited. And they're looking at him like, yeah, that's what we've been trying to tell you. This boy is amazing. He's amazing. And he wants to meet you. But he tells his parents he can't. He can't come see me like this. He can't. So he tells his parents to tell him to write him. Tell him to write him. So they tell him, we're going to give him the address and have him write you. Tell him, don't send no pictures, no nothing, just write me. So I want to get in touch with him. I want to tell him some things. Okay? They tell him, okay. They leave visit. You got to tune into the next episode to find out how this turned out. This has been another episode of Doing Time with Joe. I'm your host, Joe Baker. And I say peace, y'all.
I've been trying to breathe underwater.